Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, the final film in the Skywalker saga, is out December 20th. I've been talking about this movie for way too much, for way too long, so why not talk about it with someone actually in the movie? She plays Rose. Kelly Marie Tran's here in studio. What's going on, Kelly?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Excited to chat with you about this. I, like every other person you meet, claims themselves to be the biggest Star Wars fan. I'm sure you get this all the time. Why don't we start off? Just tell me everything that happens in the film.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you from top to bottom.
Yeah, let's do this.
Long ago.
It starts with a crawl. It goes across the screen. I heard that you've seen the film now.
Yes.
What was it like watching it? What was it like seeing? I know you've already read it and you filmed it, but what's it like seeing it on the big screen?
Oh, it's totally different because when you're filming something like that, there's a lot of green screen going on. There's a lot of talking to an X on a wall, so you don't really, you're not, you're definitely imagining parts of it. So when you're actually sitting there and seeing all of the work these incredible special effects artists have done, it just feels like you're really there and you're really in it. So I watched it with the cast. It was like Daisy and then John, Naomi, and myself in a row together, and we were holding each other's hands and just freaking out at moments, and it was really, really awesome.
What's it like for you? Because, when you came aboard the last film, you were the newcomer.
Yeah.
You also were, still working a day job when you got the cast in that. But I imagine your first time in a Star Wars movie and they all kind of, for the most part, know each other and you come in. Now you're part of the gang.
Yeah.
You're coming back to do it again. What was it just like for you in terms of that being a different process?
Yeah. The first time I was so nervous. And I'm still very overwhelmed and excited about just the prospect of working with these incredible artists in every department of a film like this. But I will say, I think there's less being afraid,
Yeah.
because I went through that experience with a lot of the same people that are now in this film. So it feels very much like a family vibe, which is a good thing, I think.
You were shot out of a cannon last time. I mean,
Yeah.
you had obviously appeared in some things, whatever, but to go from, talk about going 0 to 60.
Yeah, it was absolutely a huge life change. And I think I had a very emotional overhaul, if that makes sense, sort of adjusting to what the new reality of my life was. And now I sort of feel like, oh, I'm here. And I can enjoy this and be present and have fun here, and not be so nervous all the time.
One thing I also know is what an inspiration you were to a lot of people who hadn't seen someone who looked like them up on that screen as sort of the first Asian American woman main character in a Star Wars film. Talk a little bit about that influence of all of a sudden, someone working a day job and walking by everyone's street, and now all of a sudden you are being an inspiration to lots of people, especially kids also.
Yeah, it's wild because that feels like a lot of pressure. This idea that you're representing a group of people, and how can you represent a group of people who are multifaceted from different countries, and but we are so starved to see ourselves in media. And I wish that we lived in a world where there was more equal representation across all different groups of people. But the fact of the matter is that we're still working towards that. And I think for me, I think the most important thing is just reminding myself, as well as anyone out there who wants to pursue a seemingly impossible dream, anything that you want to do is possible, and you deserve to take up space in that sphere. And if there's any way that I can sort of, get that message out there more just by existing in this sphere, then I'm very grateful to do that.
What was it like for you when you wrapped your character on this saga? When they said that's a wrap on Kelly Marie Tran, what was that experience like?
What's so funny is I don't know that it's hit me that it's over yet, because I feel as if Star Wars sort of lives on in its own world, if that makes sense. It was very emotional. I know that John and Daisy were very emotional. It does feel just kind of strange because it's such a big part of my life over the last few years, and my emotional journey, and also creatively as an actor. It's brought me so many opportunities. So yeah, it's sort of a complicated goodbye.
And it's like you said, it's not over. I mean, you're sitting here, you're talking to me. You're going to be doing this for the next few weeks. I don't know what countries they're sending you to. I hope some good ones. I hope you get negotiated some good country visits, a little free time on your hands, hopefully. But you probably aren't getting a lot of free time. You're probably having to do this for the next
It's definitely been back to back. So yeah, I think maybe once all of the press is over, I might have more time to sort of reflect on what it means. But right now, I'm very much sort of taking it day to day.
I mentioned you play Jules on Sorry for Your Loss with Elizabeth Olsen. What's it like for you playing that character where you're playing someone over multiple episodes, not just multiple seasons, but multiple episodes? Like just a lot of your TV work beforehand, but sort of like a few episodes here or there, but a lot of one-offs, and to be able to grow a character like that, sort of similar to what you're doing in Star Wars in a second movie.
I'm learning so much. I will say that show has such a great creative team behind it. Big Beach and James Ponsoldt and the actors that they have on that show, Elizabeth Olsen, but also Janet McTeer, and Jovan Mamadou, like all of these incredible actors. I'm learning so much about what it is to tell a story that is more rooted in just purely character development, as opposed to also having these like action elements, if that makes sense. It's a very different thing. And at the end of the day, I think that show, I mean, it taught me so much about acting, and I very much feel like I'm always going to be a student of acting. I want to be. I always want to be pushing myself and getting better and learning more. That show was definitely a very big learning thing for me.
In terms of different layers of depth of emotion that you have to reach and stuff.
Yes, and also the difference of not knowing where your character's going when you start the season, really, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like when we first started shooting that show, we had the first episode and didn't know where it was going. So to sort of not only be trying to have a character arc and tell a story within each episode, you're also later in the series trying to figure out, okay, this is what we did before in the other episodes. How do I make sure this ties in, and how do we tell a cohesive story? It's a very different challenge, I think.
It's interesting because, I feel like a lot of the work you did before Star Wars was sort of in comedy, right? Your background, you have a background in comedy.
Absolutely.
And there's certainly comedic elements to Star Wars, going all the way back to the very first film with the droids and stuff. But you haven't done a lot of comedy since, so I mean, is that something that you're looking to do more of or get back to that?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I think I love comedy, so let's just put that out there. Like I grew up in improv school. Like I love it. I think that I was being very specific after Last Jedi, because I really wanted to explore the drama roots. I'm not opposed to comedy. I would love to do it. Let's see what happens.
What was that like just after you get cast in Star Wars and all of a sudden when you're fighting to get anything, any sort of small one-line appearance, and now all of a sudden you're getting a lot of offers, and maybe a lot of them are offers that you want to seriously consider, but you're still getting offers.
Yeah.
What was that adjustment like?
I think that it is still an adjustment, like trying to navigate how to make choices, if that makes sense.
Of course, it's all about that.
Yeah, and it feels like a big responsibility as well, because not many actors, some of the best actors I know are struggling still to get auditions or to whatever, and it is such a blessing, and you want to do the whole thing justice. Like we have this opportunity. What are you going to do next? It feels like a very heavy question. And at the same time, I think a few weeks ago, I was talking to someone and they were like, "Oh, you should be having fun." And I was like, "Fun?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I should be having fun." So it's this sort of balance of taking yourself seriously and respecting the craft and wanting to make good choices in terms of who you're creatively collaborating with, but also there is a fun element. Like I'd like to have fun. So it's something that I'm still trying to figure out, I think.
What do you think of Baby Yoda?
I love Baby Yoda. Who doesn't love Baby Yoda?
Right?
Yeah. The true unifying force throughout the world right now is Baby Yoda.
Speaking of Disney Plus, you're working on Monsters at Work, right? Did you finish working on that yet?
Yeah,
have you done stuff with that?
I did do work on that, and it was really, really cool. I think it's.
I love how
awesome.
you're sitting here like thinking, what can I say? How do I not?
I know,
You're sort of looking around the room at publicists. You're like, am I allowed to say I even did that?
I know. You know what? I feel like Disney has trained me to the point where I'm always like, someone's listening, so I'm gonna get in trouble. I can't say anything.
Have they just implanted something where you're just like a
there's
shock?
There's a full chip in my head, and anytime a brand, like anytime something comes up, it's like, It's like, don't say anything, don't say anything. Yeah, it's funny.
Have you done like voice work before and stuff? Have you done that before?
I mean, I had done voice work for the Star Wars sort of animated shows, and then I'm doing a DreamWorks. I'm doing Croods 2 with DreamWorks, so that's like also another animated thing. I'm really excited to sort of get into the voiceover world.
It seems like that'd be the best job in the world. But you can show up in your PJs. You don't get to deal with hair and makeup.
It's the
just
best.
get in a studio and just make up funny voices. Do it over a few times.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best, and you don't have to. I think a lot of times actors, when they're on camera, you're figuring out which angles, like where's the light, where's my mark, and you don't have to worry about any of that. It's really freeing to just be emotionally in the moment and to improvise and just to have fun.
I love watching you on screen, and it's
Thank you
really
so
been
much.
exciting to see you do very different things, like I said, with Star Wars and Sorry for Your Loss and some of the other things you're doing has been absolutely amazing. I can't wait to see what happens in the Rise of Skywalker when it opens December 20th. Kelly Marie Tran, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.